episode 6 of Humanity on Display. Today I spoke with a man named Mike who is he's an investigative journalist and a documentarian and literally one of the most interesting human beings I've ever met in my life. So we talk about an internet cult, a couple of them, but mostly one named MGTOW, which is men going their own way. We talk about red pills, cults, just an insane amount of just really fucked up groups of people, and his attempt to try to pull them out of that. It'll be a super interesting episode. I hope you guys all enjoy it. But let's get to the episode.
Co-founder of Hashtag Cult. We are exposing what are called hashtag cults, a term that we sort of invented on the internet. These are groups that use coercive tactics, but operate on the internet like any other hashtag or trending hashtag. And it's a way to have a secret handshake using these hashtags. And right now we're doing a whole documentary about MGTOW, men going their own way, which is a red pill cult, which is a whole line of hashtag cults on the internet.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack with just that, and I am insanely ignorant to most of it. So explain for me and for some of my viewers that don't know, what is red pill? What are we talking about here?
So essentially there was a movie called The Matrix in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
In that movie, this guy says, you can choose the red pill and see the truth of the world. This was picked up by former pickup artists who wanted to prove to the world that essentially there was a grand conspiracy that women were genetically designed to manipulate men into getting more money and if not stealing their sperm to have a kid and trick them into getting child support, and that they were genetically, it's not my theory, that they are genetically built this way, to be this way, and that's the truth of the world, and that you won't have any interaction with women, whether it be actually sleeping with them or not sleeping with them, if you don't understand that. That's the red pill. And the term red pill is literally, when you investigate cults, the indoctrination is usually very subtle. It's something like, we have classes. Oh, no. Well, we're just trying to teach our philosophy. Or we have retreats. In this case, they literally, their language around red pilling someone is like literally admitting they indoctrinate people. To red pill someone is to tell them that women are evil and that they need their up doses of the red pill in order to keep believing in this cult. It's a pretty crazy situation on the internet. And that's their indoctrination is quote unquote red pilling. And there are a number of red pill cults. The most famous one is Incel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a group that is sort of operates like a cult like status with a lot of abuse towards their members and groups. Incel, MGTOW, you can just find red pill. Pickup artists were sort of where this stuff originated. And it kind of got a lot worse from there. But that's what red pill is itself.
Okay, so it's interesting that you say that it's real subtle, because I know you haven't seen the previous episode that we were just talking about off air, but she mentioned the exact same thing. She goes, at first it's stuff that's believable, it's like, oh, if you're more spiritual, oh, if you're this, it's like stuff that you're like, oh, okay, I can fuck with that. And then later you're like, wait, how did I get so far? Like, where am I at now?
No one would join a cult if they
no,
said,
no
hey,
one would.
Here's what we would do. Here's what we do. We're insane. We yell at each other. If we all slip from belief, we believe in this crazy thing, and we'll abuse you if you don't believe out of it, and you're gonna have to change your whole lifestyle to fit this weird belief. No one would join.
Yeah.
No one would join.
It doesn't sound appealing at all.
And to understand cults, the thing that we're trying to put out there, which is fascinating with red pill stuff, is that it is usually, almost always, almost like 100% of the time, linked to abuse. And that's the way people get in abusive relationships. No one would stay with their abuser if they said, hi, my name's Ted. I'd like to date you. I like taking walks on the beach. And
Yeah, I'd like to also beat the fuck out of you too on casual weekends.
Yeah. It's gaslighting. It's these abusive things. And what we're trying to get out to the public is this idea that coercive and cultic relationships and abusive relationships are things to watch out for in life. There can be a cult of two people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your cultic master and all those different things.
Yeah.
I interviewed the legendary Rick Ross, not the rapper, the cult expert. And I went on after I told him about the idea of a two-person cult to talk about Star Wars and the rule of three, but the rule of two, excuse me, and the Sith Lords. But
Mm-hmm.
that was less intellectual. But yeah, it's not. I mean, the Maparium for one, your episode with Christian Science. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's nothing that weird about the Maparium. The Maparium is essentially this thing that looks like Cerebro from the X-Men series, and you walk in and they play this weird thing, and that's it. That you go in and you do that. You don't necessarily. You might go to the Maparium and not necessarily know that you're supporting Christian Science.
Yeah.
You know, but you can go to the Christian Science reading room, which is right next to it, and find books about not taking medicine.
And then next thing you know, you're fucking, your kids have X, Y, and Z, and you're not getting them treated. There's a whole. After that episode, I decided to do more research. I did some, and I was casually interested. And then after the episode, I was like, "Fuck, dude, this is intriguing." Dude, there's so many deaths. I didn't get a number, but there's so many people that have died, and they can't quite like directly link it to their religious beliefs. But there's a shit ton. I found a litany of lists, or of people that have died from like, diseases that could have been prevented had they, access. And I have my own issues with the medical field already, but I understand it has its place for sure, obviously.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that they're
Well,
literally abusing their kids. I mean, there's no other way around it. That's what
people
they're doing.
stuff like that, they rob you of you being like, yeah, I think this thing about insurance sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they do is one of the ways that they've worked on the internet, these groups, anti-vaxxers, who's also a hashtag cult in my opinion, or mud fossil, whatever it may be. That these are groups that I want to investigate. I don't know enough about them, but they're on my list to see if they do operate like a hashtag cult. Ideology is rarely a part of cult. Abuse is the main part of being a cult, coercing people and all those things, from what we've learned. But those groups interest me because the way they operate with grouping you into their ideology. So you say something like, hey, my brother broke his leg and he paid so much money and was like broke for a year because his insurance wouldn't fix it, whatever it is, whatever issue you have with the medical field. Then they say, yes, isn't that, it's because they want
That
you to
sucks, right?
money from you.
Yeah.
And they pull you in. They try and take your ideology as part of it. Now, what I try to tell people I've learned from this process is ignore the ideology, ignore the person being like, yes, that's related to my thing, and look at the behavior. The behavior is, I'm going to rope someone into my thing. I have this desire to rope someone into my way of thinking. I have this desire to be a teacher to you, right? Like, oh, you don't know. This is why they're doing it. And there's this narcissistic, abusive string to cults, to all their members, that it can be anything. It's not the idea of, even though there's damning stuff, there's horrible behaviors in some cults or coercive groups. It's the desire to rope people in that you really got to look out for.
Yeah. It's like they make a mockery of and play on like the big brother or big sister or dad or like a parent role. Like, hey, I can, come under my wing type thing. And then you end up an incel, straight full-blooded, don't even realize you are one. And speaking of them, I'm actually fairly familiar with incels, as I didn't realize it was a cult kind of thing, I suppose. But do you mind explaining a little bit about incels specifically? I know that's not directly what you're doing right now, but I am curious about it.
Reticent is because incel gets a lot of play. And so we're trying to talk about MGTOW and we're trying to talk about red pill cults to show people that this is a clear progression, a clear way of behaving online. So like, let's look at what a cult is. Like, that's the main thing that on our website, #cult.org, I have my own definition of it, which is unbridled control of another person through coercion. That's our definition, our unique definition. Now, that has nothing to do with beliefs. So before we start to talk about incels, we're gonna start with, that's the thing that we're looking for. Wanting to have unbridled control over some element of someone's life using coercive tactics. One of the things about red pill culture, red pill cults, and the internet culture of it is they use a model of already, and this is something cults do all the time, but they use a model of finding people who are already low. A lot of times in
Yeah.
a cult, they will target people who are low in their lives. They're
Yeah.
not feeling well. They're
Similar
depressed.
to a gang or any other group.
Yeah, a gang in many ways is a violent cult.
Yeah, certainly. I certainly agree with that.
And so with the case of incels and pickup artists and red pill and especially MGTOW, you're doing a lot of self-abuse to get indoctrinated
Yeah.
before you jump into it. What you're doing is you've gone through bad relationships. You might have been, some of our subjects, been through a fair amount of abuse. You feel unheard. You may have an existing mental health problem.
Mm-hmm.
You might be socially awkward and feel pressure. And those are all normal things. So then you go on the internet and you go, why can't I get a girlfriend? And you might fall into one of these forums. And that's where a lot of these people operate, on these forums. And now you have this philosophy that says you start with pickup artists. So to understand the whole thing, you have to start with pickup artists. Why can't I get a girlfriend? The pickup artist says, you need to game the system. It's a game. Women will respond to XYZ, and you just don't understand. So we call it on our show the long leash of misogyny. That someone giving you advice about women, someone being gross about women, or someone saying women are like this, we let that go. We sort of let that go already. So when someone only steps a little bit beyond that and they go, here's what exactly all women are thinking, so you can pick up women, and it's a game that I can show you with stats, right? Well, that's already getting into weird beliefs.
Yeah, that would definitely trigger some fucking spidey senses immediately with me. But I also try to pride myself and push routinely on this podcast specifically, like trying to fight against the urge to identify as anything, because I believe that identity is if it's not a precursor, it's definitely a factor in to getting looped into some fucking group like this.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you know anything about cults and anything like that, but that's what we thought, and people just confirmed it to us as well. Is like you've intuitively hit on something that's definitely there, is that people are, when you decide that something is a part of your identity, and we're actually working on a like PSA sort of thing right now in animation to talk about this, it becomes more important to believe that fact.
Yeah, so much so that sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. You got me excited with that. But
what am I?
We're going to do this. We're going to do this often. But it's funny that you say that, because I literally said this exact same thing like fucking 2 days ago. And I think they get married to it. They get married to their idea of who they falsely think they are, so much so that you can't convince them otherwise, because what they're doing is actively trying to convince themselves that they are that. Say political party, pick one, doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, whatever. So
I want to pick one. The Whig.
Yeah, pick one, whichever. Just pick any political party, any group, period.
Whigs.
Huh?
The
Whigs? Okay, say Whigs. God damn it, you got to pick that one. All right, so back in the day, let's say when Whigs were more prominent, right? So, hey, I want to be a Whig, right? And I now identify as one. So even if there's belief systems that they have that I didn't share organically prior to this, now I share them because, hey, that's what it takes to be a Whig. Hey, if you want to be a Whig, you got to, this is what we believe. And I kind of try to push that, routinely, like, hey, you can vote just using politics because it's easy, but you can vote left, right, center, whatever direction, and you can change those. You don't have to vote the same way every time just because it's your party. You can do that. And I think political parties are would you consider, at least now, a political party kind of cult-esque?
The thing that has been most impressed upon us, because remember, I'm a documentarian.
Yeah.
I'm just writing all of this down. So anything I say, I'm just saying from another expert. What I've learned, and what I think is the number one thing that people will ask, because this is the natural response, is this a cult? I see this in my life. And the answer, from listening to stories about abuse, from listening to stories about being in a cult, from learning about how easily following just the thread of information in a hashtag cult can do, this is something, and we had one interview say this explicitly, this is something you should just look out for in life.
Mm-hmm.
That we're we're not pushing this enough is that wherever you are in life, you need to be looking at, hey, what's that person's motivation
Yes.
getting me to believe?
Yes.
Hey, wait, hold on. Why is this so like, okay, I
Yeah.
heard what you said about XYZ. Let's move on and talk about what type of nachos we're going to get. Like,
Mhm.
like now we're done with that. Well, why are you pushing this on me? And it's fascinating with when you see these hashtag cults because they talk about it explicitly. They nowhere else is it more prevalent than on an hashtag cult like Red Pill or MGTOW, where they say, I'm trying to red pill my friend. They'll write that. They'll go,
Jesus, dude.
my friend is coming over tonight and I'm gonna red pill him.
Oh, what a fucked up person, dude. Oh,
And I think that shows sort of, it gives insight because they're innocently saying it to this group. They don't know if people are watching, which is a big part of MGTOW and Red Pill. They don't know that we're watching them. They don't see like, that's what's going on when someone's abusive towards me, when an abusive partner wants to date me and keep me in their life. That's what they're thinking when I come over. They're not thinking, hey, what am I going to do with my date tonight? They're thinking, here's what I'm going to do to them.
oh God,
Here's
that's
what-
gross.
And I think that that's the second thing that we want to address is the God that's gross, is to say, when you're in a cult, when this is how you've become, you start to become a bad person through your actions. But
Mhm.
there is a good person in there. And what's fascinating about incel and hashtag cults and all these things is like, we could get ahead of it. We could get ahead of it and kind of recognize that these groups are going on. One of the main things is I've been to therapy. I want men to start saying it more. There's a huge issue in this country of men not going to therapy.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways that we can do it. I don't need to fix the whole thing. I think, quite frankly, my biggest way that I want to fix the internet, if I have some expertise on it, is the comment section. There is no need for the comment section on the internet.
No.
We have no evidence that it helps anyone. We have evidence that what essentially a hashtag cult will use is coded language in the comment section, and they'll say AWALT, or they'll talk about Chads and Stacys. These are words that originate from red pill cults. And now they're out in the world. They'll say MGTOW. They'll say, this is a trigger warning for anybody. One of the phrases they use is never going back to the plantation, which is to refer to the idea of relationships with women being slavery. Hypergamy is a word that they've taken. And they just throw these words out there.
God, dude.
I know.
you know, sorry, I was thinking about this quote the entire time you've been talking, but I can't remember. I'm gonna fuck it up, but it basically goes like this: the descent to evil is a gradual one, and you take little steps, and you don't even realize, how far down you've gotten until you turn around and look back to where you were. And I think that gradual slope is it definitely showcases itself in these groups. It seems in many groups, like you don't become fucked up overnight. You don't end up hating women or whatever thing you happen to be in overnight. You have it's a gradual procedural thing.
Yeah. I think that's part of why these people don't then realize how we're not taking their side, because a lot of them are in pain. Most people in a cult are in some sort of pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And especially our group, they're in some sort of pain. Either they started in pain, or as it's been described to me by experts, they now can't live without, in the case of MGTOW, which scapegoats. They take out their emotions. So they're saying these things in order to avoid some other feeling. It gives them something to be angry about. But in order, what the psychologists and people who are cult experts have told me is, in order to keep feeling good using that tactic, you have to keep escalating. So it starts with pickup artists. Let's go back to that timeline.
Okay.
And then that doesn't work because it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you're not going to get women that way. And so then you say, I must be hopeless because the pickup artist doesn't work. That bred incels, involuntary celibates. Then from that you say, wait, but why aren't you getting women? It must not be. So again, that rage wasn't enough. That rage of I want to have sex, but it's women's fault. That rage wasn't enough, and it turned into red pill, which of course is easier to talk about and stays around because we now know incel is this thing. Red pill and all those stuff develops into lots of little schisms. Then one of the newest of which is MGTOW, which we're talking 8 years, 8 to 11 years MGTOW. So it's been around a while, but they are now officially really at cult status in the last, 7 years or so, because it's the rage of I can't get women. Okay, pickup artist doesn't work. Okay, it must be everybody else. I want to have sex. Now it's turned into there's a grand conspiracy. And where do you go from there? How do you get more intense from there? That's the danger. That's the danger of this group. They are already a cult, but from it's a grand conspiracy in the genetics of women and society at large to keep men down. How do you escalate from there to keep feeling good?
How far has it gotten, would you say, so far?
There's so in the negative, one of the bad things is MGTOW saves lives is their big thing, which is
God, I already fucking hate these people.
Well, but we need to sort of extend a hand and say, like,
yeah, you're right.
You can get help.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's gross. It's gross. As we were told it, they're on the hook. They're still on the hook. Just because we want to get you help doesn't mean you're not on the hook for the way you act and the things you publish. You're definitely on the hook. But if you get out, you can get out and be normal again. You don't have to be that way.
You'll probably be, in researching, like one of the guests I'm trying to get is former hate group members, and they get an obnoxious amount of love because they stood up and got out of that shit. So I think that's important for these people that are in these groups to understand that you'll get more love than you've probably ever gotten from that group, from the people that are not in it once you get out of it, if that makes sense. I think I can speak. This is one of the few times that I'll try to speak for everybody, but I think that most people would extend, a helping hand to somebody that's getting out of a shitty group, whether it be a hate group or some type of cult. You're not gonna get ostracized. You might be, but I think the grand majority would probably be open arms type of reception.
Mm-hmm. I think that even the most shallow person, if you were to say to them, even like look at this from a shallow point of view, if you say to them, "I was once in a cult," they're not going to be like, "Ew." They're going to be like, "Wow, wait, tell me about that."
Yeah. That's the first thing. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. And then the next question is I met a dude in a cult in person one time, and he just gotten out, and everybody's response was just that. Wow, that's crazy. Then followed directly by, how did you get out? What was it like? Shit like that. Not a single person was like, ugh, fuck. Everybody was more curious than anything else. And I think the groups that you're speaking of seem fucking volatile, man. And I worry because we've seen incels do mass shootings already. It's already happened.
I want to throw that out there because incel always gets the press. There's of course Chris Hassan, who was a Coast Guard, who was we did a video about him. He was a MGTOW. He was what he was ultimately arrested for was a weapons modification charge and possession of tramadol, which is a drug. And he was also doing some sort of enhancements, body enhancements stuff. So that was a guy working in the Coast Guard. He had been on so many MGTOW websites that in the FBI internet warrant, they made a totally separate section for his visits to MGTOW websites.
Wow, dude.
Internet search MGTOW websites because it was too big to include in the internet searches. And that'll show you something because in the internet searches as well were visits to gun modification websites, sniper forums and things like that. So much so was the MGTOW stuff worth separating that they had to do that. He was an active Coast Guard at the time, and he got worse. And we did a video about him. And when you look at the things that the judge, the prosecution, and his defense, more his appeal defense, say, is they all agree the way he acted on the internet was really weird. The debate comes down to was really dangerous and was scary to some. And the debate comes down to, was there not whether he was in a bad place, was there evidence that he was going to take actionable consequences? Was there actual evidence in his behavior that he was going to be violent? So it's odd that in this case, they're all agreeing. everything he's doing on the internet is super scary. No doubt, no doubt. The only thing illegally at debate here is whether or not he was going to do something. And even in his appeal, he has a doctor examine his psychology. They go, this wasn't actionable yet. And they describe the way these people operate on the internet, which is he's yelling in order to feel good. And he's yelling in order to make himself feel better. And that's not exactly safe feeling stuff, especially when what you're saying to people is, you can be mean to your girlfriend. You don't really need to respect women. You shouldn't be with women. You shouldn't masturbate, which is a big thing MGTOWs believe. These are damaging things to people's psyche. So when we look at something like incel, as a journalist, I get upset because I go, not upset, but I go, it's been hard convincing people of this group. I'm really happy when someone's so receptive as you, because you go, yeah, but what's the damage before someone gets shot?
Yeah.
What's the damage before? I mean, Chris Hassan was the closest that they've had in MGTOW.
Mm-hmm.
And incel is grouped in a lot of different things. And someone on an incel forum could have been on MGTOW forums. They could have mixed. They're all part of Red Pill
Yeah,
cult.
it's like a broad thing. I got you.
Yeah. So so you go, okay, until someone gets shot, then we're fine. Well, that ignores the actual cycle of
Yeah.
abuse.
Let's try to prevent that shit prior, you know.
If you come home every day, if we're roommates, you come home every day, and I yell at you and I go, if you fucking masturbate today, I am going to lose it on you. And so you're in your room and you're like, I can't masturbate because this guy's going to go crazy at me.
I'm not living like that. Yeah.
You know, is that harmful to someone?
About to be.
Yeah. I'd say yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's not okay. And so we're sort of seeing, like, when we talk to people about this, and
Sorry, my dog sneezed.
Adorable. I love animal sneezes.
God, it was so loud. Scared the shit out of me.
You know, how far do you let it go? And we're starting to see, and it's also interacting with the people. Cults are not a philosophy. A philosophy, I can pick up a book, I can pick up, here's humanitarianism. Let me flip through it. Here's utilitarianism. Here's democracy. I can flip through it and understand this. You can't understand a cult until you go and talk to these people. And we've all had experience with it. We've all had experience with these people that yell. I've had no desire. Look, I'm going to be on the show. It's going to be on YouTube. I might comment in order to get your show more views. But, like, I think we need to start examining why people are commenting on the internet.
I think I have a theory, and I think it might coincide. And this, I am by no means at all professional in any of these things. However, I think people want to be heard, and since there's so many voices now, you have to say and do more increasingly outrageous shit to be what you would consider heard. So as far as the usefulness of the comments, out of all the YouTube videos I watch through research and just casual watching, I've probably 1% of the comments at the very most are stuff that are actually useful. And they're usually timestamps. Like, hey, 0432 is when you really want to, when the video starts. That's it. I haven't found anything past that really that I can think of off the top of my head that's been useful. The rest of it, even in the most the nicest, I can't find the word that I'm looking for. Wholesome. There we go. The most wholesome videos. There's an asshole that just has to do it just to do it, you know? And I think they want to be heard. They want that confrontation so that they know that they're noticed. Yeah. And I think a large portion of the population, at least American population, is just going unheard. And I think that showcases now, if you look civilly and not, picking on them specifically, but people are unheard and people want to be heard. So they do more outrage. What do you do? What happens to a kid when they're ignored? They show their ass until they get noticed. Like it's nice and it's pleasant at first, and then they're like, fuck man, I still haven't been noticed. Let me tear this fucking house apart and then you'll notice me.
Show my ass. I'm obviously from my accent, I'm sure you can tell, I'm from the Northeast. Okay. Show my ass an expression somewhere?
Yeah, in the South. Yeah, so showing your ass is like...
It's the second time I've heard it. And
really?
I saw it on TV. I saw it on Married at First Sight. And someone says, I'm not going to show my ass on TV. And everyone me and my partner in the room are like...
What does that
Is that
mean? Yeah, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing down here. Don't show your ass.
and it's like what? Just be acting a fool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly what it means. So don't. Yeah, exactly that. We have some colorful language down here.
Oh my ass! I'm gonna start using it.
You should. You should do that.
Right, and so the debate becomes with being heard. Right,
Mm-hmm.
to what extent should they be heard? Make your own. I have zero evidence. I want to say this because we were on Dr. Drew, and I said we should get rid of the comments section. And inevitably, on Dr. Drew's show, there were comment sections of people who are MGTOW right in there, right in the comment section, talking about how Red Pill is fine. Some author of a Red Pill cult book wrote to him, some men's rights movement person wrote in the comment in our episode. And then two, the thing that people were bent out of shape was censorship. I want to say this because I don't know that I've said it in the documentary. I have zero evidence that making a single video does as much harm as the comment section. I can't study right now the effect of whatchamacallit, the actual video itself, because you need to be there with a person and see the effect on them. And a lot of work has shown that not all media really just affects you. It bounces off of people. And what we know in cults is it's interpersonal interactions that really get people. The comment section is the only thing we have evidence off of. The comment section is where we're seeing people being like, you're wrong, you're stupid, fuck you, you know,
yeah, fuck you. Yep.
Like getting into making it personal, and that slight dip. And so I don't want, if you want to be heard and you want to make a YouTube channel, I actually think that that's fine. As far as I can see, the effect that it has compared to coercing people and shaming people and love bombing people in the comments, these are all coercive techniques, is it's got to be way lower. It's the comment section that we can see.
Yeah.
And the big problem is rewarding it. We said, look, they operate in the comment section. We were getting 200 comments for a video that had 100 views. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we said, what happens if we turn the comments off? Our views dropped.
It's exactly. So it's a platform for them to fucking talk. It's a platform to speak. And that's what, so we can deduce that the theory that it's just a voice is, it may not be the sole like driver to it, but it's definitely in there somewhere. And you think about it, like, when is the last time you've had, and I ask anybody this, when's the last time anybody's had a civil disagreement on Facebook?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if you put all the civil disagreements and all the fucking toxic ones and you scaled them, is it too outlandish to say that probably the fucking toxic ones are definitely going to weigh that scale? I can probably count on one hand how many good civil discords I've had on any social media platform.
I have a theory, and we're doing some work right now in SEO and sort of internet forensics and stuff like that to really understand why this is happening. And one of my theories is, I hear people around our age and a little older go, I do remember civil discourse in America. And I do remember some amount of reasonable conversation, even when politics were unreasonable. And I think about the blogs, and I go, the blogosphere explodes, and you still have a very divisive president, you have divisive politics, and people were saying, yeah, but from that era, I don't remember this much of whatever it is. And I'm not going to go into the actual politicians because I don't think it's relevant. My theory is the blogosphere. Mm-hmm. My theory is that the ability to have enough internet or a keyboard where you could comment on blogs, that was good. Everyone having a voice, everyone having a blog was good. That it is the introduction of the comment section, which is relatively new, that ruined things. MSN, before the blogosphere and forums, had to shut down forums because they said it will always we don't have anyone to moderate them, and unmoderated forums, in our experience, have all led to pedophilia rings. They shut down for a while, and now we're back with unmoderated forums. Yeah. Because YouTube really doesn't moderate the comments, and even when they do, hashtag cults know how to be like, I'll put a star in here.
Yeah, or just fucking 2 spaces in between each character. It's right. Funny that you mentioned I cut you off again, but they mention, or they regulate the the video is so hard. You can't say certain words in the video, but the comment section, man, they just let you fucking take off. You can take off on the comment section. So
Here's
creators get the restriction, and the consumers just get to fucking do whatever they want. And it's odd to me. It's very
It is.
odd to me.
It's weird, and it's a new thing. So all you need to do to create a MGTOW forum is to make a video. Go on for 30 seconds. You can just show a cow and go and just title it MGTOW. Or just in the audio, you can go post your MGTOW comments below. That's
Now you have a forum.
An unmoderated forum,
Mm-hmm.
public view. And the more we comment, the more it drives up traffic to it.
Yep.
So it is a problem. One thing that I pointed out in this investigation is look at YouTube, look at a lot of these sites. How much is there focus on, look at like the percentage of like, here's the video, how much of it is dedicated to user interaction? What are you encouraging? Just random people talking about it. And I have to call out creators on this because there's a lot of creators who will defend comments and it's horse dookie, okay? You're only encouraging comments because it boosts your video.
Yeah, don't play like you want people to, I want my audience to, I want to hear your feedback. We don't care about y'all's feedback. I don't. I'm just sorry. I don't care. I'm going to create what I create. I don't mind being candid. I'm going to create what I create regardless of the feedback. Regardless. So if I pretend that I want feedback, and I do, but only to bump views up, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to fucking lie to anybody, you know?
And the evidence of it was right in how people saw our project. People would go, we would have people in these comments section, and I would go, hey, I'll interview you. I'm happy to broadcast you. Come, you can be anonymous. We've had more anonymous interviews than any documentary I can think of. Come, we'll interview you. We'll interview you. You made this comment. I want to hear what you want to say. And people thought that was revolutionary. Why? Because no one is actually listening to them, actually. They're actually being tricked into thinking that someone is listening. And because no one's moderating it, because they would have to be like, hey, now wait a minute, don't post that, delete that. They just have to let it fester. You're letting it fester, not bloom. And so while it's down there festering and growing, whatever, you can't be like, okay, deleted comment. People thought we were revolutionary for being like, hey, come on, I want to give you a voice. Yeah, come on my show. I'll talk to you. Do you think that the people you comment on, whatever you comment, will be like, wow, what a great comment? There's very few places on the internet.
No. At most, you get a like.
Yeah, you might get a like from the creator. It's a big deal.
Screenshot it, send it to your friends.
Exactly. But it's not real. And I'm annoyed at creators for being like, well, we want to have user interaction. No, you don't.
No, dude, you want to sell merch.
Yeah.
You want to sell merch.
And it's like I'm most upset at comedians for saying they want to have user interaction, because comedians do talk to their fans after shows. It's one of the really cool things of going to see like a stand-up in a small town. Like a lot of times you can go like see them. They're just there at the bar if it's a comedy club. And like, I think if somebody were to come up to you in a comedy club and say the stuff that and I'm sure comedians have great stories about people coming to them in comedy clubs and saying crazy stuff to them. But if they were to say some of the things that they're saying, you would be like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, please. Yeah. I think Bill Burr actually did a skit on that. He's like, dude, just because I say this, I don't want to. And he was talking about race or something. I can't remember the skit or the bit specifically, but he's like, don't come up to me after the show and I was thinking it and you said it. And he's like, don't do that. Don't do that shit. Yeah, Bill Burr's fucking amazing.
That was a great Bill Burr impression, though. I gotta say.
Thanks, appreciate it. Well,
yeah,
I try.
Yeah, and I think that it's crazy to be investigating this, because like when I talked to you, it was like, okay, someone's reacting normally to us saying this. You wouldn't believe how much resistance we get. You wouldn't believe.
In what? Where? What? At what point? Like where? I can't find a place to find resistance if I actively attempted it.
Two things. One, there's a large contingency of people on the internet who know about Red Pill. And so they have this Wikipedia knowledge where they go, they want to tell me I'm wrong. They might even have in them this desire to comment a lot. So we put this out there and they'll be like, no, they're not this. And I'll sort of say to them, like, have you spoken to these people? Because that's the measure of a cult, is how they interact with each other. So have you spoken with them? And they go, no, but I know what they believe. I go, no. You can have a cult about anything. You don't know how they act. Yeah, what they believe is part of it. And so they don't want to be wrong because they know of something. It's this internet desire. I call it Wikipedia knowledge. It's this internet desire to never you might be right is like one of those things that people go, oh, no one on the internet says you might be right. I think the better one is in conversation. How often do you say, oh, I don't know about that. Will you tell me all about
Oh,
it?
bro, not often. I think it's funny because there's an old, oh God, I want to say it's Marcus. I'm kind of a bookworm, history nut. Not really history nut, but I love words are my thing. But there's an old quote where he talks about how a wise man will never, has no problem expressing that he doesn't know a thing, right? He has no problem. But the fool will steadily try to convince everybody that he knows everything. And it's funny because they've actually quantified and measured that intelligent people more times than often, more often than not, will admit to not knowing a thing. And it's we've glorified being. If I say you're right about something and you're just like, say we're not who we are, you're just a guy on the internet, and I say, hey, yeah, you might be right, you'd be fucking shocked. You'd be like, wait, what, you agree with me? It would surprise you because we're all so used to being, always getting fucking an argument back, always an argument, so much so that if you say something reasonable and it looks like it might not be what somebody thinks, like they can find a way to find an argument. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, I'm gonna tell you a short story. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a girl who I went to. Man, I've known her since I was like 9 or 10 years old. So she works with a. I'm not gonna express who she is because she works with somebody famous. But she had, yeah, ooh, and I don't want to get her in trouble because she's a good girl. She's just a little bit misguided. So she told me, and now I'm mostly apolitical. Just putting that out there. And this story is why I have to fucking say that. But she told me she wouldn't talk to a guy that was a Trump supporter. And I'm like, his politics regulate, or she would block him actually. I was like, politics regulate your relationships? And she's like, no, I just don't I have a problem with the white supremacists, da da da, and tried to push. I was like, well, okay, hold on. I was like, let me ask you this. If I was like, perception's a thing. So I don't think that people that support Trump believe that I'm sure there's some that believe he's a white supremacist. And whether he is or not is it's completely irrelevant. It's about perception though. And she basically, at the end of the day, she ended up looking for a way to convince me that I was a Trump supporter because I challenged her thought process. And listen, 100% not supporting Trump.
Yeah,
But
what you're saying is to make it clear to people, because I think I get it, is like,
yeah,
it's not a matter of whatever the specific thing is. You're like, oh, so interesting. Let's talk about the idea of
exactly. Just yes, exactly that. It's more of a neutral question. And because I asked a question and didn't outwardly agree with her, I can't be anything else but the enemy. And what I'm trying to reinforce here is that the assumption that somebody, because they ask a question, the assumption that they're arguing, that they're disagreeing with you is a problem. Like just asking you a question with no motive, just other than just wanting to know the answer to it. If the assumption is that I am on the opposite side of you, and the only reason this was just that topic, happened to be that conversation, but it's happened many other times with many other subjects. But I say, hey, why do you think, I'm in fitness, right? So why do you think this modality is best for hypertrophy or whatever, right? A person that's like most people nowadays they would argue with you. If it's on the internet, for some reason they won't do it in person, but on the internet, the immediate thing is, well, what is it's defense? It's like it's just a general question, and I wonder where that comes from. Why is it always an argument or like a defensive reaction to a neutral question? It's always the internet seems to breed that because it doesn't happen in person. I don't think it's because people are pussy. I think it's because the internet does something, and there's something with that, like the psychology of the internet, and I can't quite like put my finger on what it does about that.
Yeah. I mean, I have theories on that as well, that are a little bit more complicated, but in terms of like, I don't have them solidified in any way. But yeah, I have experience to talk about asking questions and looking. There's two examples I can have. One, even I'll start with the easier one because you're from fitness and you'll like this. So I made this documentary about dieting. And I set out with a different goal, but I would go to people and they would have some dietary thing, whatever it was, veganism, vegetarianism, whatever their thing was.
Mm-hmm.
Or they had it was mostly about myths, following the myths you hear in dieting. It's called telephone dieting, which is like a term I invented for the movie to be like, how does someone say something so wrong about nutrition and then that becomes this huge thing?
Yeah.
What is that? What's going through that person's mind? And so someone would say something to us like, I don't eat fat. I do fat free. And everyone in the documentary, there's this phenomenon that we would have. And I would say, instead of saying like, well, I know this about it, or, oh no, or I agree with you, they were so used to that. And I felt it to be distinctly American in the way we talked about it. And I could be wrong, but they so felt that I was either going to agree with them or tell them a new way and sort of be a little bit coercive in a minor way. That's a coercive relationship. Why does someone want to tell you about your diet all the time?
Yeah.
They sort of assumed I would either disagree or enlighten them to something even more. And so I even say this line directly in the documentary. I go, but when I would do the basic journalistic thing of, can you explain that a little bit? Their minds would melt.
Yeah.
Their minds would melt because they were not used to being said, I'm just asking what's going on with you. They would get defensive. They would not know what to do. They'd get embarrassed. They'd be like, I don't know. Like I should have researched it. And I was like, no, this is part of it. Is like,
Just want to know.
just asking what's up with you. So ignoring, I think Trump is I don't really want to talk about Trump because I think that's a more difficult example to slice.
Yeah.
But in terms of that associating with something terrible, associating yourself with something horrible because you're there. I'll tell you something from MGTOW before we sort of slide towards the end is like almost everyone who's in these groups sees themselves as a luminary. That's part of being in a cult in general, a cult leader, someone on the higher end of your cultic relationship. In other words, the controlling one sees themselves as enlightening. Now, how that takes shape on the internet is they see themselves as someone that's, I'm going to interview them and they're just going to, really tell me how it is. And like, boy, it's going to be like some fluff piece that you see like, and this is how, oh, wow, tell me about these things. So that's how they see themselves. What they also don't understand is the idea of pure journalism. They will make me answer questions. And a lot of them will be frustrated when they try and ask me hypotheticals. And I'll be like, oh, so you believe this? And you believe it? It's like, no, I am a journalist.
Just want to know, dude.
I'm asking you to tell me how I asked that question is at most devil's advocate. At best is presenting the arguments of your opponents. I'm not injecting any of me into it. And that's where I think objective journalism gets lost, that a pundit on TV has anything to do with their opinions, unless they say it's my opinion, in which case it's not journalism. It's an op-ed. So that was in terms of, you have a very challenging thing because you're trying to ask about something and you don't want to be associated with something terrible. This was the same thing with them. It's like, I'm just asking you. I'm not in this room to convert you. And I think that's a big thing is that we don't have enough of like, I always say, I want to be the stupidest one in the room. I don't think my journalism works if I'm not like, yeah, I don't know anything. Educate me,
Mm-hmm.
I think agree festivals are like the worst thing in the world. Just two people in a room being like, yeah, and me too. And
Echo chambers, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why even talk? why even continue to talk? So journalism to me is interesting as an idea of learning, of how can you learn about it, not to be an expert on it. I feel like now I am starting to be an expert on MGTOW itself, the singular group. But even then, I hope that there's more experts than me. I hope that there's people that see this group as harmful and they become better experts than me. And we start, an experiment I want to do, and you're happy to participate in this, is hashtag MGTOW has thousands of members, thousands. And you can go, you likely have one person who's heard of this stuff. If you put our website, we own this website, you put MGTOWisacult.com, put that in your social media feed, see the responses you get, and send any to me, and we'll include them in the documentary, because this is an experiment we're trying to run now. You will see, if you put MGTOW as a cult in your feed, someone's going to believe it.
I'm going to put it on the fucking intro, dude. I'm going to put it on the intro.
If you put this on YouTube?
Yeah, no, it's going on everything.
The comments open? Oh, you're going to get tons of comments. If you put on your Facebook feed, MGTOW is a cult, your Instagram feed, whatever it is, Twitter, MGTOW is a cult, inevitably, and now don't think of my experiment doesn't fail if no one responds, but inevitably a lot of your listeners are going to be like, there's no way someone I know believes that. And one thing they might do is go, oh, give that little half step. That's a thing that we've seen too. You go, MGTOW's a cult, like, well, I think that some of the stuff they say is true. I think that this thing is true, and maybe they're not a cult. That's the sign.
And yeah, that's the first step. That's the
they're not going to be like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
no,
it's like not. It's the frog in the pot thing. Do y'all have that expression up there?
Yes, I know, and I want to say for people into biology, this does not happen. But I do know the analogy. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a thing that frogs do. Frogs will jump out of the pot.
I'm sure they won't even stay in your fucking hand. I don't know where this came from, but it does apply. I think that if you get to a point where you can't immediately be there, you can't just immediately be in this, and it's just those little, like you said, incremental steps. And these are super interesting, dude. I have so many freaking questions. There's so many topics I want to talk to you about. Do you mind doing this again with me?
Absolutely.
Okay. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I've got other interviews. That's the only reason I'm getting off today.
Yeah.
This documentary full time. But other than that, I'm totally, yes, let's do it again. Let's do it.
Dude, please send me all your shit, all of the things. So I'm going to put stuff all in the intro. So
I love it. And that's the first step. Honestly, is people are not when you find a cult, they're never going to believe you. We're starting to see, as we've done this investigation, I am definitive that we have caused an upspike in the word hashtag cult. We've caused MGTOW being featured on stuff. That's been us. It's not always us getting featured, but it's our effect. And that's the first step. And then someone said to us very inspiringly, someone in your audience today, this is the first they'll hear of this thing, and they'll say, that's a cult. That's the first time I heard of it.
Yeah.
And that will make the change in the world. Is that small change that is, I know this is a cult before it might be a cult even. Don't even believe me.
Yeah.
Don't take it.
Just
might be a cult before I get into it.
And it's the thing, and like I've said, million, you're probably not tired of hearing it yet, but I'm sure my listeners are. Think for yourself. And what you guys push influences, I hate to use that word, but passively influences people to do that, to think for themselves. Like look back on yourself and say, hey, am I fucking up? Like, have I turned into something that I didn't? Just turn around and look and just hold a mirror to your face, whatever analogy you want to use. Just look at yourself and make sure that you haven't slipped into some odd ideologies. Look back on yourself 10 years ago and just, I'm not saying you are, but just make sure, and I feel like your guys, when you say how it's very like gradual and lightly done, that's good, because that shows people that, that gives them the knowledge that they may not have realized that they've slipped so far. It gives them that ability, it's one more tool they can use to try to fix themselves. And my lesson has always been, try to think for yourself, because everybody's trying to think for you.
I love that. And I know we got to go, but I'll tell people where to put that mirror though. Next time you're going to comment, pause, stop, and go, why am I commenting?
Yeah.
Now, it may be, I like this. I want to comment. It's my friend. It may be, I'm angry. I'm really angry right now. That's why I want to comment. I'm bored. I'm bored in my life. I'm frustrated. I'm trying to hit on this person, but I don't really have the guts to do it. So I'm doing it in this weird, creepy way. Whatever it may be honest about your motivations to comment on the internet. That's the thing today, is like, we always talk about screen time is mindless. Screen time isn't I don't know what people want to look at nowadays. It's like, all right, I have to look at something. It might be my phone. I can't just sit around and stare at the carpet all day. But consider that commenting. What do you think that's the thing that you can really point people to. Why am I commenting right now?
Yeah.
Right now, I want to do that,
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. I think introspection is a good and rare thing. I think like I was telling somebody today, make it cool to be introspective. It doesn't have to be, this not cool thing anymore. Just put that into a fad. Let's just try, non-toxicity as cool. Because if you've noticed, I have noticed toxicity is cool now for some reason. So yeah, man.
Rewarded.
This was fucking awesome. So I'm definitely going to hit you up again, and we'll be in contact. So
for sure.
Super, super dope.